Hey guys, welcome back. So the one that keeps blowing up on this channel is the pilot. The guy whose last words were, it's not an aircraft. A lot of you wanted more of that. So today, 5 of them, 5 times something showed up. The military went after it and then couldn't tell you what it was. Also, I got some new transitions in this video, so enjoy. And I want to say this up front because it matters. I'm not doing blurry photos and some guy's cousin. Every single one of these has an actual paper trail, a declassified memo, a tape recording, a lawsuit against the US government. One of them, the Pentagon straight up released the video of and said, yeah, that's real. And no, we don't know what it is. Same deal as always. Quick version of each. And if one grabs you, drop a comment and I'll make it its own video. Counting down from 5. Let's get into it. Number 5. Thousands of people watch something the size of a city block float over Arizona in total silence, and the governor went on TV and made a joke out of it, then admitted 10 years later that he'd been outside watching it too. This is the Phoenix Lights mass sighting. It's the night of March 13th, 1997. And I have to split this into 2 things because this is where basically every video about it gets sloppy. Thing 1. Around 8 o'clock at night, calls start coming in from Prescott, up in northern Arizona. People are describing a giant V shape of lights moving south. Not fast, slow, and silent. That's the part everybody says. No engine noise at all. And it keeps going. Phoenix sees it around 8:30. Then it carries on down toward Tucson. So over about 2 hours, this thing crosses an entire state, and thousands of people are outside looking up at it. And a lot of them aren't describing lights. They're describing a solid object because they could see it blocking out the stars as it passed over. Thing 2 happens later, around 10. A row of lights sitting still over the mountains southwest of the city, hanging there, then going out one at a time. And that one, honestly, that one's solved. The Air National Guard says A-10s were dropping illumination flares on a range out there that night, and most researchers accept it. So if you see the famous footage of lights in a row going out one by one, that's probably flares. I'd rather tell you that than pretend. But the first one, the big V that crossed the whole state 2 hours earlier, that has never been explained. The Air Force didn't even answer the record's requests about it. And then there's the governor, Fife Symington. June of 97, he holds a press conference about the sighting, and he brings out an aide in a rubber alien costume with a big oversized head. Whole room laughs. Case closed, right? 10 years go by. 2007, he's out of office and he comes forward and says, I saw it. He describes a massive delta-shaped craft moving silently over Squaw Peak. And he specifically said it was not flares because flares don't fly information. And that thing held its shape. He said he kept quiet for 10 years because of what it would have done to him politically. So the guy who put an alien costume on stage to make everybody feel stupid was standing outside that same night looking up at it. Number 4. 3 people drove up on something over a Texas road. Within hours, they were losing their hair and their skin was blistering. They sued the United States government for $20 million. This is the Cash-Landrum Incident, the evening of December 29th, 1980. Betty Cash, her friend Vicky Landrum, and Vicky's grandson Colby, who's 7 years old. They're driving home to Dayton, Texas after dinner. Dark road, woods on both sides, and there's something over the road. Big diamond shape, and it's shooting flame downward out of the bottom. And the heat coming off it is so intense, they pull over and get out. And then can't get back in, because the door handle of the car is too hot to touch. Betty's out there, the longest. She was the driver, she's the one closest to it. And then they notice the other thing. Helicopters. A lot of them. They counted somewhere around 23 Chinooks. Those are the big twin-rotor Army transports. And they're all around this object like they're escorting it. They get home. And within hours, all 3 of them are sick, throwing up, Their eyes swell shut. Their skin blisters. And then their hair starts falling out. That's not food poisoning. Those are the symptoms of acute radiation sickness. Betty Cash ends up in the hospital, and her doctor estimated she absorbed somewhere between 1 and 2 grays of ionizing radiation. That's a serious dose. So in 1981, they sue the U.S. government for $20 million. And in 1986, the case gets thrown out. And I want you to hear the reason it got thrown out. It got thrown out because the government said the craft wasn't theirs, and no branch of the military would admit that the 23 helicopters were theirs either. 23 Army helicopters over Texas, and officially nobody owns them. Now, honest part, this case is argued about. The injuries are real and documented. That's not in question. What's in question is what caused them, because outside of those 3 people, nobody else saw the craft. That's a fair criticism, and I'm not going to skip it. But here's how it ends. Betty Cash never really got better, and she died on December 29th, 1998, which is 18 years to the day from the night on that road. Number 3, 2 fighter jets went up after this thing. Both of them came back with their weapons dead. This is the Tehran Incident. midnight, September 19th, 1976 in Tehran, Iran. People in one of the northern districts start calling in about a bright object with strobes on it, flashing blue, green, red, and orange in a rectangle pattern. Enough calls that the Air Force scrambles an F-4 Phantom to go look. The jet closes in, and at about 25 miles out, his instruments die. All of them, and his radios die. So he's in a fighter jet at night, with no instruments and no way to talk to anybody. He turns away. And everything comes back on. Works fine. So they send up a second F-4. This one gets a radar lock on it, and the object just matches him, holds its distance, matches his speed. And then a smaller object separates off the big one and comes straight at his jet. So the pilot does exactly what you're trained to do. He goes to fire an AIM-9 missile at it. And the second he reaches for it, his weapons control panel goes dead. And his comms drop out again. He breaks off hard. And the small object turns around and goes back to the big one. Now here's why this one isn't just a story. The Iranians briefed American military attachés on it, and the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency wrote it up. Report number 6-76, dated October 12th, 1976. And you can see the distribution list on it. That report went to the White House, the Secretary of State, the CIA, the NSA, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And when the DIA graded their own report on how solid it was, they scored it high on every single category. It's been declassified. You can go read it. 2 jets, weapons dead, and a document that went to the president's desk. Number 2. Something landed in the woods next to a base that was storing nuclear weapons, and the deputy base commander walked in there with a tape recorder running. This is the Rendlesham Forest Incident, Britain's Roswell, late December 1980, in Suffolk, England. There's 2 air bases side by side, Woodbridge and Bentwaters, and even though it's England, they're being run by the U.S. Air Force, and at the time that site is holding nuclear weapons. Keep that in your head. 3 a.m, day after Christmas. Security guys at the East Gate see lights coming down into the forest. They think a plane's gone down, so they go in on foot. 2 of the guys in there are John Burroughs and Jim Peniston, and Peniston reports finding a craft sitting in the trees with symbols on the side of it. He says he touched it. He drew the symbols in his notebook. Now, if that was the whole story, fine. 2 guys in the dark. But 2 nights later, the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, takes a team back into that forest, and he brings a cassette recorder. And that recording got out. It came out in 1984, and it still exists. So this isn't somebody remembering something 40 years later. You can hear it happening. On the tape, they find 3 depressions pressed into the ground, about 1.5 inches deep, 7 inches across. They put a radiation meter on them, and the readings spike inside those 3 marks. about 10 times what the background should be. And then, while they're standing there recording, they see a red light out in the trees. And Halt describes it pulsing, throwing off glowing pieces of itself, and then splitting into 5 separate objects. 2 weeks later, Halt writes it up in an official memo to the Ministry of Defense. Subject line, unexplained lights. That memo got released, and it's the reason anybody knows about this at all. Fair play to the other side. The MOD said no defense significance, and skeptics point at a lighthouse a few miles off the coast, plus a bright fireball in the sky that same night. The men who were there think that's insulting. You can decide. But here's the thing that sticks with me. John Burroughs spent years afterward with health problems, and his military medical records were classified. He needed United States senators to step in and get them unsealed just so he could get treated. Why would a man's medical file from a night in the woods be classified? Number 1, this is the one where the Pentagon looked at the tape, said, yes, that's real, we don't know what it is. And then nobody investigated it. This is the USS Nimitz Tic Tac. Middle of the day, November 14th, 2004, off the coast of Southern California. The USS Nimitz carrier group is out doing exercises, and for about 2 weeks, one of the ships, the Princeton, has been picking things up on its radar. And the Princeton's radar is not a toy. It's the kind of system that can track something the size of a golf ball from 100 miles away, and it's watching objects drop from around 80,000 feet down to 20,000 feet in seconds. Nothing does that. So they send 2 jets to go look. Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich. Real pilots, real names. Both of them have testified about this publicly. They get out there, and the first thing they notice is the ocean. There's a patch of water churning white, like something's just under the surface, and above it there's an object. About 40 feet long, smooth, white, shaped like a Tic Tac. No wings, no rotor, no exhaust, nothing coming out the back of it, nothing holding it up. Fravor takes his jet down toward it in a spiral to get close. And the object mirrors him, comes up as he comes down, like it's aware of him, and then it just leaves, gone. And here's the part that gets me. A couple of minutes later, the Princeton gets back on the radio and tells them, it's at your rendezvous point, 60 miles away. They'd never told anybody where that point was over the air. Another jet went up right after and caught it on infrared. That's the footage you've probably seen. And then, April 2020, the Department of Defense officially releases that video, not a leak. The Pentagon, on the record, confirming the footage is authentic and the object is unidentified. Then in 2023, Fravor sits in front of a House Oversight Committee hearing and says that at the time, nobody ever actually investigated it. Honest note, same as always. There are smart skeptics, Mick West being the main one, who argue the infrared video is just a distant plane plus camera glare. That's a reasonable read of the video, but the video's the weakest thing here. The hard part to explain away is 4 naval aviators looking at it with their own eyes at the same time, while multiple separate radar systems were tracking it. So that's 5. A silent V-shape over Arizona and a governor who laughed at it for 10 years. 3 people on a Texas road with radiation burns and 23 helicopters nobody owns. 2 fighter jets with dead weapons and a memo that went to the White House. A tape recording from the woods next to a nuclear base. And a Tic Tac off the coast of California that the Pentagon admits is real and can't explain. Which one gets you? Drop the number in the comments. Yeah. And if you want the full deep dive on any of these, tell me which one. I'm Sketch. I'll see you in the next file.